If we here at TrailBuilt have a product that sucks, we're gonna tell you it sucks. Hey, what's up guys? Josh from TrailBuilt. Fortunately, in today's video, that's not the case for either of the winches that we're gonna go through with you guys as we take a closer look at what the differences are exactly between a Warn Xeon 12S and the Rough Country 12K Pro, both of which can be found right on our website at TrailBuilt or by clicking the link in the description below. The reason for comparing these two winches is, one, right now at the time of this video, we only carry Warn and Rough Country winches, and two, we have each of these winches mounted to a couple of the vehicles we have here at TrailBuilt. The Rough Country Pro 12S started its life on my International Scout where I've had to use it on multiple occasions, and now it's living on the front of one of our videographer, Zach's Jeep, where he's had to use it on a few different occasions as well. The Warn 12S spends its days living on the front of our Anthem Wheels Power Wagon, and it too has also had to be put to work. This gave us enough experience that now we can give you guys some real-world feedback on the performance characteristics between the two. This way, if you guys are on the fence trying to decide if you want to save about $1,200 or so and go with the Rough Country winch or spend the additional money and go with the Warn winch. Speaking of price, the Rough Country 12,000 pound Pro S with synthetic rope lists for $550 on our site, whereas the Warn Xeon 12,000 pound capacity winch with synthetic rope runs for $1,700 on TrailBuilt. And our particular Warn winch is the non-platinum edition, just for some additional clarification on that. Plus, obviously guys, both Warn and Rough Country do offer the option for steel cable and traditionally will be lower in price, which these prices that I just mentioned are current at the time of filming this video. First things first, what has our experience been with both winches? Well, the biggest thing is that they both pull like freaking mules. In fact, I'm pretty confident in saying that we were at max pulling capacity on each winch in different situations, and neither one of these winches is willing to give up at any cost. There's no doubt that if you're looking for sheer strength, that either one of these are not going to let you down. In fact, the Rough Country has sustained the most abuse over the last couple of years and is still going as strong today as what it was when it was brand new. The first extraction we use the Rough Country winch for is from when a wheeling buddy of ours broke through some ice in a shallow pond, about 3 or 4 feet deep or so, so not too bad. However, the shelf ice on the edge of the shallow pond would not let him out. His 38-inch tall tires were no match for the shelf ice that was about 2 or 3 feet high, and there was no way to back out of it either because of the soft, deep mud at the bottom of the shallow pond. After trying for a while to get out and not being able to, the next best thing to do was to winch him out, which we did use the Rough Country on the front of the Scout with 2 anchor vehicles hooked up to the back of the Scout to keep it from sliding forward. Even with that setup, along with running a single snatch block, the Rough Country just kept pulling and ended up dragging both the Scout and the anchor vehicles closer and closer to the Jeep that just kept getting jammed up underneath this outer shelf ice, which by the way was about 3 feet high or so. Then after repositioning again, we did hook up another winch vehicle with a line parallel to ours using another snatch block, along with an anchor vehicle on his rig. Even stacking logs and stones and pretty much anything we could find under the tires of that stuck Jeep, eventually we ended up pulling him out, but not without some carnage to the front axle. We actually ended up having to pull him so hard that the leaf spring mounts on his CJ7 ended up tearing off. But anyways, the Rough Country 12S Pro never even flinched a bit during the hour, maybe hour and a half or so that it was working its ass off. And the other time the Rough Country was really put to use, even more than pulling out that CJ7, was when we ended up getting the Power Wagon stuck up in Michigan. We actually got it buried. At this time, we had already installed the Rough Country onto Zach's Jeep, and fortunately we did before this trip, as it was the only thing that saved our asses from an expensive tow truck bill. But even pulling the heavy ass Ram out of this thick, silty mud for hours, the Rough Country never grew weary or tired of pulling. In fact, we even got Zach's Jeep stuck trying to reposition it, and it just kept working and working. We did end up eventually using the Warn on the front of the Power Wagon after we were able to winch it far far enough backwards with Zach's Jeep that we could get the front of the power wagon facing in the right direction where there was actually some dry ground. And of course, the Warn made pretty short work of getting the Ram out of its predicament. But after 5 hours of pulling between the rough country and the Warn, we left victoriously, albeit sunburnt and tired AF, but both winches performed exactly how we expected them to without any failures. I will say though that mostly due to our negligence, that at one point we did start overworking the rough country when we got to the point where there was too much line on the drum. In fact, we almost had all of the line on the drum while winching because we didn't stop and back up to let the line out until there was only about 1 wrap or so on the drum. And that's where you get the most pulling power out of the winch. So we ended up working it so hard that it started smoking from inside the electric motor housing of the rough country winch. But that was our "hey dumbasses, it's time to take a break" warning. But even after overheating the rough country and letting it cool down, we went right back at it again, and it just kept pulling and pulling until the job was done. Now, we did have a snatch block hooked up there as well, so that definitely did help us in doubling the power of the rough country winch. And even after being on Zach's Jeep throughout the entire winter this year here in Wisconsin without a cover on it and using it again just a couple of weeks ago, it still works like a mule. Although the winch in button on the wired remote does tend to stick occasionally, and the synthetic winch rope is just now starting to show some fading to it. Partially due, actually mostly due to our own negligence again for not having it covered for the last couple of years. The point is that we have more than got our money's worth out of it already, and even if I had to buy another one, I would still be $500 ahead of what a Warn costs. Yeah, the rough country doesn't look as good as the Warn or has the Spydura Pro synthetic rope on it, which is a higher quality, stronger, and more UV resistant rope compared to the conventional synthetic rope on the rough country. But if you want the premium product, you gotta pay the premium price, right? Now, with that said, the Warn definitely has its advantages as well, and the additional money is absolutely worth its value in quality. And here's why. First off, before we get into Warn's advantages, both winches do feature a series wound electric motor. Series wound motors which are extremely efficient at higher speeds and less prone to overheating compared to permanent magnet motors. The rough country houses a 6 horsepower motor that pulls 360 amps at max capacity, and the Warn lists a max amp draw of 469 amps while pulling at the max capacity of 12,000 pounds. But it doesn't list the horsepower rating of the motor on the Warn. Both motors of the rough country and Warn are attached to a 3-stage planetary gear drive system, giving the rough country a final drive ratio of 265 to 1 and the Warn a 216 to 1 final drive ratio, making the Warn's line speed faster than the rough country, but also making it work a bit harder at the same time, which even though Warn doesn't list the horsepower of their motor, the extra 109 amps of draw tells you that it plenty compensates for that shorter drive ratio. Either way, both the Warn and the rough country use the same 4.5 by 10 inch mounting dimensions, and both offer ways to remotely mount the power going to the motor. The rough country, you can remotely mount the entire solenoid control box somewhere else, whereas the Warn Xeon comes with a remote mounting plug that wires to the integrated solenoid box. The Warn does have a little better waterproof and dustproof rating at an IP68 compared to the rough country's IP67 rating, giving the Warn a little extra edge and peace of mind that you're not going to have any water or dust or salt spray or any corrosion happening inside the internals of the Warn. As far as the drum brakes go, the rough country lists theirs as automatic in the drum, whereas Warn lists theirs as a mechanical cone style. And I did a little bit of research on winch brakes, and there isn't a whole lot of information out there, at least that I could find in the short amount of time that I had to check, but I can't say exactly what the difference is between the two at this point, or even really have a good understanding on how winch brakes work. But I do know one thing, that both our Warn and rough country didn't have any issues with holding the line tight and the vehicles in place whenever we let go of the winch in button. I also know that you are not supposed to use your winch to hold down your vehicle in place on your trailer trailer, as the constant bouncing will eventually either wear out or break the winch brake. So then what do we get with our winches when we order them? Obviously the winch itself, the electric remote controls, both being 12-foot leads, both come with the power and the ground wires, both come with the house style fair lead for synthetic rope, proper grade mounting hardware, and the Warn comes with 80 feet of their proprietary high endurance military grade Spydura Pro synthetic rope that features a urethane coated 12-strand braid that is heat treated under tension. Plus 20 feet of it is a Nomex heat sleeve that protects the rope on the layer nearest the drum and can be used to tell you when to stop winching out, as most of that 20 feet or so covers the first wrap on the drum and out to the house fair lead. The Rough Country comes with 85 feet of your standard rigging synthetic rope, and both companies have fairly decent install instructions that are easy to read and easily accessible on their websites. One other very notable thing that each winch comes with is a warranty. Rough Country protects you from any manufacturer defects for mechanical components for up to 2 years and 1 year for any electrical component. No warranty on the rope or the finish of their winches or anything you might screw up on it accidentally. Warn, on the other hand, offers a limited lifetime warranty for mechanical components and a limited 7-year warranty for electrical components. Obviously, a bit of a difference there, but that is also one of the major advantages or differences between spending the extra money on a Warn winch compared to the Rough Country winch. Not to mention, with the Warn, you will also get higher grade components and hardware used in and on their winches. From the extra thickness of the electric remote cable to the electrical contactors that are inside the remote and the solenoid control box itself. You get a higher grade quality rope, a unit that is sealed better, and overall something that is designed to perform a little bit better, and is a winch that is going to last you at least 6 years longer than a Rough Country when we compare the electrical warranties, and a lifetime when we compare the mechanical warranties. On the other end of the spectrum, if you don't mind swapping out winches when or if it dies, you could purchase 3 Rough Country 12 Pros for the price of 1 Warn Xeon 12S. Yeah, you don't get that line speed that the Warn has, but you're also saving more money initially. So then the question becomes, save up for a while and spend the money once to get a high-performing, high-quality Warn that could potentially be the last winch you ever need to buy, if well taken care of course, or spend less money up front and take your chances that you might need to replace it at some point down the road. And that could be 10 years from now, or even longer if really well taken care of. Or it could be in a few years that you may need to swap it out for a new one. I can tell you one thing though, both will get the job done and both are absolute workhorses that aren't gonna let you down. Well, as long as you're taking good care of them and using them properly, like not like what we do. Regardless of the brand of winch you decide on going with, just make sure to thoroughly read through the install instructions first and properly follow all maintenance and care guidelines to help ensure your winch is going to be there for you when you need it. But guys, here's what I'm really interested in is I'm curious as to what winch you guys are running, but more importantly, how has it been for you? Has it ever let you down? Does it work really well? How do you like it? Just make sure and let us know in the comments below. Don't forget that we'll have that link posted in the description that brings you right to all the winch and winch products on our website at TrailBuilt. But before you click that link, make sure and hit that subscribe button, the little bell next to it. And guys, as always, we appreciate all of you for watching and all of your support. I'm Josh from TrailBuilt, and we'll see you guys out in the trails.